The story for Grand Theft Auto 5 is probably the hugest of the series so far. It doesn't follow one, but three main characters in the sunny city of Los Santos. The three characters are ex-con Michael, wannabe con Franklin, and psychopath and ex-friend of Michael, Trevor. Michael wants to have a normal life with his dysfunctional family, but he can't because of his addiction to crime. He then meets up with Franklin, who really wants to make some extra money and thinks Michael is the perfect person to get him places. Then Trevor, who is Michael's ex-partner and friend, and insane psychopath, joins the fun with Michael and Franklin and get into many odd and dangerous situations which involve robbing banks, working undercover for the FBI, and even stealing stuff from one of the world's biggest militias. When these three are together, insanity is bound to ensue. The story does go all over the place with characters, but that's not a bad thing at all. The many different characters that Trevor, Michael, and Franklin will encounter are either extreme oddballs or complete assholes that are full of themselves. All of these characters are likable in their own way or are so hateable that they do a full 360 into being likable again. The main three characters are evil people, with the exclusion of Franklin, who is the most sane of the group, but you'll never really hate them as characters because of how well they are portrayed and how hilarious the dialogue is. Trevor will easily be the fan favorite because he speaks his mind, which is filled to the brim with insanity, and I mean, he's just hilarious. Let's be honest, he's funny. He's a funny dude. But I absolutely love the chemistry between all three of the characters. Michael, Franklin, and Trevor, when they are on the screen together, it completely sparks with chemistry. The story goes to so many different places, and it is absolutely huge. It's not completely serious, which might be a negative for some, but I adored it. Overall, the characters, dialogue, and the length are all reasons why this story is absolutely amazing. There you go. There's the story. The sound in Grand Theft Auto 5 is extraordinary. The voice acting is filled with absolute talent from each of the cast members. The main three, Trevor, Michael, Franklin, all do a terrific job with each of their pretty distinct characters. The chemistry all three of them have is some of the best chemistry between characters I have ever seen in a video game. Their different personalities and the very witty and extremely funny script keeps things going along in the story. The cast does an amazing job from side characters to main characters. Everybody is portrayed perfectly here from their actors. Now, the soundtrack is usually huge for a Rockstar game, especially a Grand Theft Auto one, and guess what? This is probably their biggest soundtrack yet. So many different songs, rap, country, rock, etc. that they provide you. Now, I don't personally love every single song in the list, but I can't say that it isn't impressive to see a roster this huge. So yes, it has a lot of talent, has a lot of music you'll probably like. I don't love every single song, but it is a damn good soundtrack. And the sound design has a lot to keep up with, seeing that the world is enormous and the NPCs in the world will do their own thing. Luckily, in the missions or just exploring, the design is perfect. Guns all have a distinct sound, explosions, cars, and even footsteps sound very realistic. Overall, the sound is near perfect in Grand Theft Auto 5. But now let's talk about the graphics. Grand Theft Auto 5 is not only one of the best looking games of all time, it's probably the best looking open world game ever conceived. The world of Los Santos is huge, but Rockstar doesn't skimp out on the little details and objects that they put in the world. There's just so many little things in there that I'm just like, they didn't need to put that lawnmower in there or that bicycle that I can't ride. They didn't need to put all this stuff, but they did, so they can have a realistic feeling world. They're just small details that are just very small but will wow you that they actually went out of their way to put that little thing in there. Basically, it's not just one big bumpy plane of texture. From huge mountains to oceans to big cities to small ones, even wildlife inhabit the world and it all looks beautiful. Not only the world, but the characters are some of the most realistic you'll see in a game. The way they move, talk, and look are very impressive, and sometimes the game feels like a real movie. Rockstar has managed to add character to these characters by modeling each with such a keen eye on detail. For example, Trevor is completely insane, so his entire character is always covered in dirt, grime, cuts, and scrapes. Michael is more laid back, so he usually wears very clean but comfortable clothes. The way these characters look really adds extra personality. The game in general is just beautiful. All the little details in the characters, items, and the world were lovingly made by the team at Rockstar. When you look at this game, you see a team that cares about what the hell they are making. Overall, the graphics are some of the best out there. It is beautiful. It's beautiful. But now, the gameplay for Grand Theft Auto 5. GTA 5 takes the open world sandbox genre and decides to make it bigger, better, and oh so much fun. And I mean so much fun. GTA 5 is still a third person shooter like the past few games and lets you run amok through a huge and expansive world where you can steal cars, kill pedestrians, hide from the cops, blow stuff up with explosives, punch people in the face, and so on. The gunplay is the best out of the series by a mile. The shooting feels fantastic and controls very well. The kickback of each gun and the way people die is very fulfilling. I mean, I love ragdoll physics, and this one probably has some of the best I've seen. I guess that's the reason why people keep coming back for more Grand Theft Auto games. It feels good playing the damn things. You also have a cover system like the last game, which is way more improved. GTA 4, it was a bit too sticky at times, and at other times it wasn't sticky enough. This one balances that out almost perfectly, and the cover system makes for some really intense shootouts, and it never gets too annoying trying to get out of cover. It's real easy. Also, the amount of weapons you get to try out in the game will add tons of enjoyment to the insanity that will ensue in the sandbox Rockstar has created. Now, like the title suggests, you can steal cars from pretty much anybody in this world. They can either be beat down old cars or trucks, motorcycles, bicycles, which makes a big return here, ATVs, dirt bikes, sports cars, electric cars, helicopters, jets, blimps. You have a wide variety of choice when it comes down to vehicles. The driving for most of the ground vehicles is very similar to the last game's realistic feel to it. Cars and bikes have a realistic weight to them when driving, and when you're turning or braking, it won't act like most vehicles in video games. These are realistic. These actually act like real cars, and I love that, especially when you crash into the other ones and you see bits of other cars just fly around and stuff. It's very, very fulfilling. Hell, if the car gets banged up too much, you'll actually start to lose wheels and doors and hoods, and hell, sometimes the car just won't start in general. Then you'll have to find a brand new one. Some people don't like the more realistic feel, but I sure love it. I got used to the driving in the matter of minutes and still love it after about 100 hours of gameplay. Now, the helicopters, jets, and other air vehicles are a bit trickier to control. I don't think they control terribly at all, but it does take more time to get used to them. I do hate how fragile some of these air vehicles are. I was in a helicopter and banged a telephone and the helicopter exploded. I just banged it a little bit. It's not like I went freaking 300 miles an hour and I hit a freaking telephone pole. No, I just hit it and kaboom, dead. So them being fragile and tough to control isn't helpful at all, but still, the wide variety of different types of helicopters and jets and planes is very cool. Now, speaking of variety, you have 3 main characters that you play as throughout the game, which is the first time ever for a Rockstar video game, and each have their own special ability. Michael has a Max Payne style bullet time slow motion, which, you can slow time down and you can pick headshots and stuff. We've done that plenty of times. Trevor has a rage mode, which will cause bullets to become way more deadly, and Franklin has a slow motion ability for when he is driving, which will make it easier for the player to progress in traffic and whatnot. Each of these abilities are useful and very effective. Now, the real cool thing about having 3 main characters is the ability to switch between the 3 almost any time you want. Say you're playing as Michael and want to switch to Trevor. You press down on the D-pad and pick Trevor, and then the camera will fly into the sky and find where Trevor is, and now you're playing as him. It's a really cool concept, especially since each character is doing their own thing once you jump to them. It makes the game feel like you are actually playing as real people. Really insane people. While playing as any 3 of these characters, you can either do the missions or whatnot, but you can also explore the world of Los Santos, which has tons of different things to see, or you can set up your own murder rampage like I would. You have cities, big and small, which is typical for a Grand Theft Auto game, but you also have the far north, which is almost completely desert, forests, and mountains, which are very different environments for a Grand Theft Auto game. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these have been done before in previous Grand Theft Auto games, especially San Andreas, but not on the scale of this one. This is easily Rockstar's biggest and most liveliest world ever, and there are tons of stuff to do. Now, besides just going on a rampage and killing tons of people and getting the cops on your tail hours on end, you have tons of alternative things you can do to balance out all of the mass murdering you'll be committing. You can complete the main missions, which will progress the story further and even unlock more things like weapons, missions, etc. There are almost 70 story missions and each one feels different from the last. They balance out very well and don't make each mission feel the same at all. Now the side missions, or as they call them, the Strangers and Freaks missions, will introduce you to some of the strangest characters in the game. These missions aren't too long and follow a very similar path where each mission feels either a bit or very different from the last. Also remember that the dialogue in all missions is top notch and very funny, so it will make you want to progress even if you don't like the mission. Those are the bigger missions in the game, but you also have tons of little activities scattered throughout the world that you can do. I'll just rattle off a list of things you can do, starting now. Parachuting, buying property to increase money flow, sea races, air races, shooting ranges, getting drunk with side characters in the game offers hilarious dialogue. Off-road races, hunting wildlife, bail bonds, assassinations, playing the stock market, yes, the stock market, playing sports by yourself or with a virtual buddy. These include golf, tennis, darts, and triathlons, and all of these feel like they could just be in their own separate video game, by the way. Strip clubs, my personal favorite, towing missions, yoga, collectibles to collect, robbing stores and armored cars for money, helping random people out on the street, and so on. All of these things, including the extremely long and engaging story and the wide amount of fun you'll have just messing around, makes Grand Theft Auto one of the most perfect packages out there. With a huge and always interesting dynamic world to explore, solid gunplay with a much improved cover system, the ability to switch between characters at almost any time, the superb driving, and the wide variety of things to do define Grand Theft Auto 5 as the gaming event of the year. Obviously so, seeing that it made $800 million before its first week was done. Get Grand Theft Auto 5 now. It is most certainly worth every single one of your $60 freaking dollars. $60, that's it. You'll be spending so much time in this game. I give it a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. Is it even surprising that I'm giving it that score? Possibly the best game this year in a year filled with amazing games like BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us. There you go, there's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry that it was so late. Thank you and goodbye.